Hey, good day to you. This is Stan Prochowski with Prochowski Estate Law, and this is the Ask Stan show every Thursday at 12 noon, where I answer all your estate planning questions submitted throughout the week. If you have a question about wills, trusts, Medicaid pre-planning, Medicaid crisis planning, the nursing home, or just estate planning in general, just send them to me here on Facebook or call me at 363-7222 or email me at prochowskiestatelaw@gmail.com. I'll answer them live on WKSR Radio, and we post them here on the Ask Stan show every Thursday. So, let's get right to it.
Hi, Stan Prochowski this morning on the Attorney Stan Prochowski Song of the Week. Stan, just before I get to you, let me say good morning to your worker over there, Alex.
Good morning.
Alex, be sure to tell your mom I got your name right, okay? Would you do that for me? Okay.
I sure will.
All right, I didn't call you Alexis this time. I called you Alex. All right, so make sure we cleared that up. Stan, good to have you. What do you have for us today?
Oh, good morning. Yeah, it's always good to be here. I got a couple things. One, I want to start out with a seminar we got coming up, and that is, we had one in Columbia earlier this week, and it was pretty, big success, good turnout. Lousy weather, but good turnout. The turnout was great considering the weather, let me put it that way. So anyway, I'm doing another one on this 19th. This is sort of by popular demand. I had a lot of folks say, hey, we have trouble coming to them during the week. I offer them at 1 o'clock and at 6 o'clock. And it's designed to help folks who work for a living or folks who don't like to get out at night. And but a lot of folks just can't make it over the weekend or the weekday, and so they said, "Can you do something on the weekend?" So I've not done one before, but this is the first one I'm going to do. It's a Saturday, June 19th, so it'll be a week from Saturday. It's going to be at 10 o'clock a.m. We'll probably have a little coffee and donuts, something like that. But it's at the Star Theater. We got plenty of room there. Or you can just need to call the office and RSVP. Call me there at 363-7222. Just tell Alex or Tammy or Courtney that you want to get on the list, and we have a good head count that way. We know how to spread out chairs or how much coffee and donuts to have. So anyway, it's the same thing. It's called Wills, Trusts, in the Nursing Home, and that's what we're going to talk about. So if you want to come to that, just call and sign up. It's on a Saturday. You don't have to take time off work. It should be. You might cut into your sleeping in time, but that'd be okay.
And again, that's on the 19th.
That's on Saturday the 19th. That'll be a week from Saturday, so at 10 a.m. So anyway, listen, what I want to talk about today is it's sort of an area of confusion I get a lot of. So I want to spend just a few minutes on it, because I think it's important that people understand it. And most people have heard of what we call the 5-year look-back period. Now, it's kind of misunderstood. I'm going to go over it the best I can on radio. If I had a big whiteboard, I could put a little bit of math on the board, but it's hard to do on the radio. So, but I'm going to try and keep it straightforward so that it's understandable. When you try to qualify for long-term care, that's one of the things we talk about at our seminars. Long-term care and how to qualify for it, and how to protect your assets, from the cost of that. Now, whenever you want to qualify for long-term care, you're not allowed to have any what they call disqualifying gifts. Okay, and that's what during the application. That's what they're going to look for. So here's the way it works. If you're institutionalized, which you need to be to actually file an application. So if you're in the nursing home or under some sort of care, and you file the 10-care application, the minute they get that, okay, you fill it out, you mail it into them, or you fax it, however you submit it. But once they get it, they pretty much stamp it that day, and then that gives them the right to look backwards into your financial history for 60 months. That's 5 years. And when they look back in that history, what they're looking for is a transfer of property for less than fair market value, or sometimes it's referred to as an uncompensated transfer, meaning you gave it away, but the person didn't pay you for it. So, say you deeded the house, it was a $200,000 house, you deed it to your son. You say in the deed, $10 love and affection. He didn't pay you $200,000 for it. You just gifted it to him. That's the sort of thing they're looking for, and that's the sort of thing that deals with the 5-year look-back period.
All right, let me ask you this. Is it true that if you give something away, you have to wait 5 years before you can qualify for 10-care?
I hear that a lot, and there's a nugget of truth in there. It does trigger a period of ineligibility, but it's not automatically just 5 years. It's based on the math. It could be as low as 1 or 2 months, but it's based on. It's not automatically 5 years. So what it does is when you have one of these uncompensated gifts, you trigger what is called a penalty period.
All right. What's the penalty period you're referring to?
Okay, there is here's the way to put it in Reader's Digest terms, I guess. If you give property away like this in the last 5 years, TennCare will essentially kind of punish you. They call it penalty period, I sort of call it punishment, but what they're going to do is when they looking back in those 5 years, they're going to sum up all the uncompensated gifts that you gave. Now, let's just say there's one that you've given. And I'm going to put some values on it to make the numbers easy for make the math easy to do in my head. So let's say you have a home that's worth $210,000, and you give it away 3 years ago, and you apply for TennCare, and it was 3 years ago. Well, they're going to see that, and they're going to implement what they call a penalty period. So you ask, what penalty period am I referring to? Here it is, and here's how they figure out what it is. They will take the $210,000 that you gave away. They will divide it by the Tennessee Penalty Divisor. Every state has their own number. Ours is just under 7,000. It's 6,880, but let's say 7,000 so I can do it in my head. So you got 210,000 divided by 7,000. You're going to come up with a number of what number are we going to come up with? About 30. About 30. Yeah. Okay. 210 divided by 7. You're going to come up with a number of about 30.
Yeah.
That's 30 months. That is the penalty period. In other words, you're going to qualify for TennCare. They're going to say, look, you qualify, we're ready to pay, but we're going to implement a penalty period because you gave away this gift that was uncompensated. And their logic is that if you had kept the $210,000 house, you could have used that to pay roughly the $7,000 necessary for the 30 months. So it makes sense why they do it, or at least once you understand why they do it, it helps make sense. So, that's what the penalty period is, and that's how they come up with it.
What are you going to do if they change the 5-year period?
Well, that gets brought up a lot too, because people come off a lot and say they think it's 7 years. Now, here's the reality of it. It was 3. In 2006, when Tennessee adopted the Federal Deficit Reduction Act, it was changed to 5 years. Okay, so that was 2006. I think the day's coming when they are going to change it. But as we sit here today, they have not, and actually I have not seen anything, in our legislative watch as to anything that's really brewing. But I'm just sure it's going to happen one of these days. But if they change it, it's going to be something different from that point on. So let's just assume they do change it to 7. When they do that, from that day forward, people will be subject to 7 years. But a lot of people say, if I do something now, does that affect me? And the answer is no. They can't do what is called ex post facto and look backwards and change it for people who had already put planning in place under the 5-year rule. So when they change the law, either January 1st or July 1st, like they do in Tennessee, it will be from that point forward. And there'll be some language, because when you look backwards 5 years or the 7 years, there'll be a few cases that find yourselves in that gray area between the 5 and the 7 years. So there'll be some language, and it'll be similar to the language we did when we changed it from 3 to 5. So anyway, that's no worries. Thus the reason why the sooner the better. Planning needs to. The sooner we do it, the better we're going to get the lower time frame.
All right. How about this? If you do give property to your children, can they come and take it from them?
Yeah, good point too. Because if somebody does say, let's say somebody decides to deed the house to their son, once you do that, ownership is complete. I mean, you've deeded it to them. Okay, you've divested yourself of property, you've given it to that person, and ownership is complete. And if 3 years from now, they say, okay, you've given this house away, the people ask me, can they come and take the house back from the person I gave it to? The answer is no. What they can do though is they can impose this penalty period. So if you can sort of see the difference between the two. They can't go take the property back, but they can impose the penalty period on the person that gave it away. That's sort of like the punishment or the ramifications of doing that within 5 years. So, if you've done that, don't worry, they're not going to come and get it. So, anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about, because that's kind of, it's just a misunderstood concept, and I want to make sure people know it and understand it, because it is something we can plan around and we can deal with it. But you just can't go by what you hear, what your neighbor tells you about it. A lot of people think it's 7 years. It's not yet. So, if you need to understand it better, give me a call. I'll be glad to sit down and we'll talk about it and see how it applies to your particular circumstances. So, anyway, that's all I have. But in the minute or two I got left, wanted to bring to your attention, I brought it up the last couple of Thursdays, and that is, the theater, which I'm associated with, is back up and running, technically. We had the Gatsby shows, we had a couple of those, and they were big hits, and we had a lot of fun. But I want to point out, basically, we're back, okay? I put something up on the sign, just the other day, we're back. And tonight, Thursday the 10th, tonight it's from 6 to 8, we're having like an open house. And it's an open house tour where we're going to show you what, if somebody wants to come, we have some refreshments and talk about the theater and stuff like that. We're going to get some tours of what we did during the downtime. Because during the downtime, we did some renovations. We did a backstage renovation. We did fix some lights, fix some sound equipment, just put our time to good use. If we couldn't be putting on shows, we were doing things else. So that's tonight at 6 o'clock, goes from 6 to 8. Tonight at the Star Theater. Just show up for that, no need to RSVP. Just come see what we've been doing and just sort of kind of welcome us back to the performing arts again, because we've been, that was one of the industries that was hit the hardest, because just by definition, when you go to theater, a lot of people get together, sit relatively close to each other, and those are the things that we wanted to avoid in that time period. So anyway, come on by to that, it'll be fun.
That'll be coming up, and I think a lot of folks are excited that the theater's opening back up.
Yeah, I think so too. They got camp going this summer. They're all signed up for that, and that's ready to start. So we got a pretty good turnout for that. So
yeah.
Okay, so before I go, my seminar Saturday, June 19th at 10 o'clock in the morning. Coffee and donuts. Will's Trust and Nursing Home. Call me at 363-7222 to RSVP. And if you're not doing anything tonight, come on down to the theater for the open house tour.
All right.
At 6 o'clock.
Sounds good. Stan Perchowski. Contact number at your office once again.
Sure, 363-7222.
All right, sir. Thank you, Stan Perchowski. Perchowski Estate Law. He'll be sponsoring the weather this afternoon, and I think he's bringing some rain and thunderstorms.
You got the good with the bad, I suppose.
Thank you, Stan. We'll
Thank
see
you.
you next Thursday morning.